Hi everyone. So I've come across a little bit of information online. I don't know how true it is, but it was something to the effect that there's a small brain wrinkle in the front of the brain that indicates how likely someone is to have hallucinations. Um, I'll just see if I can find the information on that. So let me see. um, it's by Johnathan Webb, a science reporter at BBC News. It says frontal brain wrinkle linked to hallucinations. So trying to find what part they're actually talking about. Thought I read this like it was at the top. Wasn't at the top. Well, that goes to show what can happen, hey. Wow, I must have read the whole thing and found it somewhere further down. Just trying to sort of scan it a little bit. PCS. We think that the PCS is involved in brain networks that help us recognize information that has been generated ourselves. That's really interesting because what I experienced when I was hallucinating heavily was that I got to a stage where I was capable of imagining, hallucinating what I wanted to hallucinate, if that makes sense. So instead of it just happening to me, I was happening to it, if that makes sense. I was able to hallucinate the sound of an eagle if I wanted to, or the ocean, or some historical figure, or whatever I wanted to hear, I could hear it. And it was only limited by my range of previous experiences of things that I've heard, and perhaps not even limited to that. But I think it probably is. It's just, it might not, I mean, it might seem like you can hear more things than you've actually heard, but I would rehear conversations in my head as well. Not ones that I had with real people, but the ones that I had with the hallucinations, if that makes sense. So, for example, the auditory ones, like the voices. So, yeah, there's some interesting experiences. Yes, it says a study of 153 brain scans has linked a particular furrow near the front of each hemisphere to hallucinations in schizophrenia. This fold tends to be shorter in patients who hallucinate compared to those who do not. In the area of the brain that appears to have a role distinguishing real perceptions from imagined ones. Not sure if I agree with that, but yeah, they're the ones doing the research, so they'll know a lot more about brains than I do. But having lived inside this illness, I know that often we can distinguish between what's real and what's not. Although a feature of the illness is not being able to, that doesn't mean that for everyone that we're not able to. In my case, I can distinguish very much what the difference between a hallucination is and what's real. And someone put it to me this way, that I have my one foot firmly planted in reality even if I'm hallucinating. So that the idea that we're not able to distinguish between real perceptions and those that are false is quite it's interesting, but it's also a bit concerning that that's what they think is going on. Because, say, if you're looking for something that isn't the problem, then, if you're trying to solve a problem but you don't know what the problem is, then you're solving a different problem that people aren't asking for help with that. They're asking for help with schizophrenia. So I guess they probably might need to redefine it, but maybe they need to narrow down the research a bit. I don't know, but it's a little bit complicated to explain what I'm trying to say here. But anyway, it says the brain wrinkle called the paracingulate sulcus, or PCS, varies considerably in shape between individuals. It is one of the final folds to development, so that means it happens towards the end of development, appearing in the brain only just before birth. The brain develops throughout life, but aspects such as whether the PCS is going to be particularly prominent fold or not may be apparent in a brain at an early stage, said John Simons, a neuroscientist at the University of Cambridge, UK. It might be the reduction in the brain fog gives somebody a predisposition towards developing something like hallucinations later in life. It's interesting that they say later in life because this is a condition that generally occurs, like schizophrenia generally occurs particularly for males in the teens, and for women it can be late teens, early 20s. But it does happen later in life as well, sometimes. But it's more rare for it to happen later in life and have not happened earlier than that. It does happen though. It says it might be that a reduction in this brain fog gives somebody a predisposition towards developing something like hallucinations later in life. Oh, I've already read that. If further work shows that the difference can be detected before the onset of symptoms, for example, Dr. Simon said it might be possible to offer extra support to people who face that elevated risk. That's a good thing in a way, but also it could be a bit of a problem because I guess that extra support might be medication, and that medication might be triggering rather than balancing. I think there's a lot that they need to learn about this. I will just say that mainstream research contradicts other research, and that other research contradicts mainstream research. So depending on what side of the fence you sit, I guess you might or might not think medication's a good idea early on in an illness. But I mean, what I'm saying is, if there's even an imbalance there, then you don't want to try to balance it before the imbalance occurs, because that could cause an imbalance. So yeah, that's a bit of a concern, but that might not be what they mean by support. There could be other things like just having a social worker in the person's life or something, having the friends and family involved in knowing that this could occur and what to look for and how to respond and things like that. I don't know, but it's interesting that they think that they could help someone before it kind of starts. And then it kind of goes into some aspects of I don't know if you ever saw Gattaca, but it was discussed in Genome, the book Genome, Gattaca. That's a particular gene, well, it's not even a gene, it's just a random word made out of the sequences of nucleotides. So I don't think it actually codes for a gene from memory, but yeah, so there were concerns about ethics, like if they could detect various illnesses before people were even born, they could sort of decide to terminate those kind of pregnancies, and then all of society were people of a particular kind, and then there were concerns about like certain like diseases that are contagious, whether because some genes code for like response. I'm trying to think of the right way to explain this. Like some genes that code for certain problems can protect against other problems. For example, people who have high, like areas where they have a lot of people with sickle cell anemia are less likely to get, I think it's malaria. So there's a concern that like if you try to make everybody perfect, you're actually going to set them up to fail, because they might not be able to withstand certain illnesses that the so-called like rogue genes would have protected against. So anyway, when they're talking about like helping someone before a problem occurs, it's like, are you trying to create a problem or are you trying to fix a problem? Because you might have the intention of fixing a problem before it occurs, but in fact create problems, because that person might not be so welcoming of this extra support. So they may or may not. Says, but he stresses that schizophrenia is a complicated phenomenon. Hallucinations are one of the main symptoms, but some patients are diagnosed on the basis of irregular thought processes. Yeah, and I've certainly experienced many of those. They're something that I kind of struggle with on a daily basis, those bizarre thoughts that I don't think feel like my own thoughts. They feel like some monster, but maybe that's some aspect of who I am that's coming out, that's been suppressed or something. I don't know, but it says we've known for some time that disorders like schizophrenia are not down to a single region of the brain. Changes are seen throughout various different areas. To be able to pin such a key symptom to a relatively specific part of the brain is quite unusual. There's a lot more in that article. I don't want to go through the whole thing because I don't want the video to go too long. It's probably already gone for quite some time. So yeah, yes, it has gone for quite some time. It's gone for like nearly 13 minutes. So anyway, that's just some food for thought. Now, I know I didn't explain everything the best way that I could, and a lot of it you may or may not agree with, but so sweaty. My hair's all sweaty. It's really hot in Queensland. It's just like there's always like water pouring out at the back of my head. So yeah, might put it up. So yeah. Yeah, there we go. You can see there's a picture in the background here. It looks very strange here, but I'll just lift the camera up. Oh, you really can't see much of what that is, but it's some lilies. I really love that picture. And then there's a bicycle here. It's a pillow, but it's got a bicycle on it. I love that. They're not mine, they just come with the house, so yeah. Anyway, I hope that you have a great day and an awesome life, and God bless you. Thank you for listening so far.